In accordance to the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice has been published and placed in the bulletin board. We all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Quite a few of you have in front of you Ed, Michael, Seal, Rob, Vic, and Ted in front of you. If you could all stand, and our attorney will swear you in.
Yeah, just raise your right hand if you will, and just repeat after me. I state your name.
Michael Orsini.
Do solemnly swear or affirm
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established in the United States
and to the governments established in the United States
and in this state
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform
all the duties of a planning board member
all the duties of a planning board member
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. If everyone would fill out their paperwork in front of it and sign it and give it to our attorney so that he can notarize it and we can give it to the clerk for tomorrow.
Mr. Thomas is the only one I need.
Yes. I'll call the roll. Councilman Chase. Here. Mr. Coble. Mr. LaCourte.
Here.
Ms. MacGyver.
Here.
Mr. Mettler.
Here.
Mr. Pettit.
Here.
Mr. Stevens. Mr. Thomas asked to be excused. He has a sick relative to take care of. Mr. Potasnik.
Here.
Mr. Onyaka.
Yes.
Mr. Orsini.
Here.
The next matter on the agenda is reorganization. Do we have a nomination for a chairperson?
Yes, I nominate our previous chairperson, Dr. Michael Orsini.
I'll second.
Any other nominations? No, we'll close the nominations. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Congratulations, Mike. To your meeting now.
Okay. Next order of business is the nomination and selection of the vice chairperson, and for that I would like to nominate Seal MacGyver.
Second.
Are there any other nominations? I'll close the nominations. All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
The appointment of the board attorney. This was done, I think, back in...
Well, what we did is we went through the procedure required in the bylaws to go out for, we do a fair and open process. You interviewed our one and only applicant, and you asked for the resolution to be put on this evening to appoint our current board attorney. So that has been prepared this evening, so the resolution is on, and
So we'll just
agree.
do the resolution then?
yes.
I move the resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
And thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. Last order of business on the reorg is the witnessing the oath of the Director of Planning, Mark Healy, and the Zoning Officer, Vince Delman.
There you go. Please raise your right hand, gentlemen. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will give this board throughout this year in all matters will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes. Consider yourself sworn for the year.
Fantastic. Okay. So, we already did the roll call. I don't think we need to do that again.
Your minutes?
Are there minutes?
No minutes, 2 resolutions.
Okay, we'll go right to the resolution. Okay. Okay, the first resolution was the appointment of the board attorney, which we did that already. Okay, so the second resolution is docket number PLN 2005-0047, Dean Oddie, a relief of conditions. And that would be in your packet.
Yeah,
right
I
here.
mean, just the people eligible to vote are Councilman Chase, Mr. LaCourte, Ms. MacGyver, Mr. Mettler, Mr. Stevens, and Mr. Potasnik.
If there's no discussion, I move the resolution.
Second.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Mr. LaCourt.
Yes.
Ms. MacGyver.
Yes.
Mr. Mettler.
Yes.
Mr. Stevens.
Yes.
Mr. Potosnik.
Yes.
The same individuals are eligible to vote on the Ardmere.
Okay, let's do the Ardmere, PLN 2004-0058, associated with that subdivision approval, relief of conditions, and, yeah, somebody else will have to nominate. those.
Again, if there is no discussion, I move the resolution.
Second.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Mr. LaCourt.
Yes.
Ms. MacGyver.
Yes.
Mr. Mettler.
Yes.
Mr. Stevens.
Yes.
Mr. Potosnik.
Yes.
So we'll go into our hearings, with three relatively, I think, straightforward ones tonight. The first one is Trap Rock, PLN 13-00015.
Good evening. Should be on, I think. No?
Hello.
There you go.
Mr. Chairman, John Junko appearing on behalf of Trap Rock Industries LLC. This is an application to permit the development and construction of a concrete plant on the quarry. That happens to be located in Block 5.02 and Lot 102 near the Kingston Rocky Hill Road, although it's thousands of feet away from the roadway. And for that purpose, we will also seek the board to grant a variance for relief for height. A portion of the concrete plant is 98 feet high, and there are several other sections that are over 50 feet, and 50 feet is the limitation in the zone. There will be testimony about a demonstration that was done with the crane for the height and its distance, and we're able to demonstrate that it's really not visible from the exterior. And I understand the day they did the test, it was a little cold and there was some snow and everything, but they still didn't see anything. So that was there. Otherwise, I believe we're in compliance with the remainder portions of the ordinance. And I would like to present two witnesses. First, George Conway, who is the Director of Environmental Compliance and Permitting for Trap Rock Industries LLC, to just talk a little bit about the plant and its purpose. And then Mitch Ardman, who is our planner and engineer for the evening. So with your permission, I'd ask that George be sworn. Do you want to swear both witnesses at the same time? Or?
We can, it's
It's up to you.
a pleasure.
Well, why don't we, this one, I don't have many questions for George, so.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please state your full name for the record.
George M. Conway, Jr.
And George, what is your employment and your position with Trap Rock?
I work for Trap Rock Industries, LLC, and I'm the Director of Environmental and Permit Compliance.
Where the plant that's proposed for the quarry site is one of several plants. Can you just give a little description of what it is, where it's going to be and what it's proposed to do?
The plant is going to be located in the, I guess you would say, the southern, north, the south side of the quarry, next to a berm, but well within the quarry itself. The quarry is approximately 441 acres.
Now, and how is this plant powered?
This plant will be powered by electricity. And
Will you also have a backup emergency generator?
I'm sure we will, yes.
Okay. And what is your timing for having the plant in operation in the event the board was able to permit the application to be approved?
We'd start construction immediately and try to be ready for this coming construction season.
Okay. I have no other direct questions of Mr. Conway at this point, so if there are any other questions, otherwise I'll call Mr. Ardman.
Any questions from the board members for Mr. Conway?
I just have one comment. That solar array that we approved, is that going to also be used to power this plant?
No,
Oh, no, okay, so it's going to be an independent electrical supply?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no other board questions, you can proceed
Thank
to
you.
your...
Mr. Ardman, please.
I think we should swear you in the beginning of the year, too.
That would help.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And as our attorney intimated, we're very familiar with Mr. Ardman and he's stated his qualifications as a planner many times, so.
Well, good, then you
That's
just
an
saved me
expert.
3 questions.
And I continue to be.
You remain
in all
licensed,
matters.
Mr. Ardman?
Yes, I do. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Could you just, have you prepared any exhibits for presentation to the board?
Yes, I have.
Again, Mr. Chairman, would you like them all marked at this point, or as we use them?
You can mark them all together as like a 1, 2, 3.
Okay. Mitch, why don't we go through all of the exhibits, get them marked, and then we'll do the presentation.
We generally mark them all.
Several of them I have marked. So we'll start here with A1, which is marked with today's date, 1/8/2004. This is the concrete plan, overall property plan, OS1, the same as is in your set, with the plan date of 1/1/14. So the plan we have here before you, again, is the overall plan. Outlined in red is the full property, as was stated, approximately 441 acres. On the, for existing conditions, we have here on the west side, Kingston Rocky Hill Road, Route 603, and that's the main entrance to the quarry facility. The entrance to the quarry is here. You come into the facility, everybody comes in, goes through the scales, and the main entrance gate that's there. We have the DNR Canal is just to the west, as well as the Millstone River. Rockingham is just off to the bottom here, and the Rockingham parking lot, which I'll get to. Some of the pictures from the crane test were taken from that location. Surrounding the property, we have County Route 518 to the north. We have undeveloped RR5 zone, which borders the property to the east and to the south. The developed piece to the south is also Trap Rock. This road, which comes out here, goes all the way out to Route 27, and the closest surrounding development here is the maintenance yards and office for Trap Rock. The only residents proximate to the property and the project are here on Laurel Ave. A couple of these are actually owned by Trap Rock, and Laurel Ave basically dead ends in a cul-de-sac at the property line. The other facilities that were discussed on the property are the asphalt plant, crushing facilities, the towers and the concrete plants were all kind of in the center location. And then you can see kind of in relief on the plan here, looks a little bit like pyramids, but those are the quarry operations as they get benched in and cut into the property. A stilling pond is up in the northern-western corner of the property, or a settling pond that takes the flow from the bulk of the quarry as a stormwater provision. And that's pretty much the existing conditions that we have on the quarry. As far as what we're proposing, we're showing in this southern portion of the site, as was described, that's where we're planning to put the proposed concrete plant. The plant is over 2,000 feet from Route 603. So as was stated, a good distance there. There are berms and the fence along the roadway there. And it's over 600 feet, it's approximately 617 feet to the closest point on Laurel Ave. There is a large, approximately 30 to 40 foot high berm, which I'm outlining here, which runs that full length of the southern property line between Laurel Ave and the proposed project, and which provides an ample buffer for the project that we're proposing. Just going to move next to a little bit of a blow-up of the proposed plan so we can talk about the individual components. This I have marked A2, 1/8/2004 for today's date. This is the concrete plant dimension plan, SP1, the same as in your set. The plan date on this is 10/29/13. So in your set, as you'll see, this is really the limits of the concrete plant, which were on that overall plan. The trucks will come in, again, through the main entrance, which we have a controlled gate. Everything will be controlled coming into the property, through this gravel road, and into, this will be basically a big concrete pad around the plant. The plant itself, the concrete plant, is the darker brown that I'm outlining here in the middle of the plan. There'll be several components to that. There'll be reclamation bins there, there'll be aggregate bins, and there'll be cement bins. There'll also be some silos put on the side here, which also are for cement silos. The operation is basically that there are bins in basically the southern portion of this development piece here, which have the raw material that go into making the concrete. So there's the cement, as was stated, and then there'll be gravel and sand and aggregate, which will be in the southern section in the bins. There's a conveyor system, which we show on the plan. The conveyor system will take the materials up into these mixing bins. And the concept is you bring it up, and then gravity takes it all down, all the mixing goes, and then it goes into the drum mixers, into the barrel mixers, into the trucks below, and back out. So it's a system that's been well used over time, and we'll have some more pictures of the plant itself so you can get a better representation on the plan view. It's a little hard to visualize, but I'll get into that. As you come into the site, there's area for the mixer trucks to park on site while they're waiting for their turn to come basically in under the mixing barrel, loop around, and come out. There's also spaces for cars. Basically, the drivers who run the mixer can come in the day, park their cars here, get their mixing trucks, and go out for the day on their loop. So there'll be facilities in the building as well for those employees. There's a stormwater detention basin. As I mentioned, there's a settling pond which was designed for basically the entire complex. With present-day regulations with DNR Canal and the most recent stormwater regulations, we've proposed this stormwater detention facility to supplement that. We've been through the review with the Township and as well as DNR, and so that will handle any additional stormwater requirements that are needed for the site. So pretty much, it doesn't have a lot of the features as a usual site plan you'd hear me talk about. It's really the basics within the quarry, running that operation with supplying the cement, the aggregate, the stone, the sand, into these mixing barrels, into the drums, and to go out in the mixing trucks in the same way that all the other vehicles come and go from the site.
Mitch, the board's planner, Mr. Healy, requested some exhibits demonstrating sight lines of the location of the plant.
Certainly.
Did you prepare any?
Yes, I did.
And also, I understood that we conducted I said we, but the applicant conducted a actual visual test at the site with a crane to demonstrate the height of the proposed plant and its impact to the adjoiners.
That's correct.
Could you describe for the board, first of all, the test and what your observations were of that, and second, demonstrate the sight lines as were requested by the planner?
Certainly, and I'll pass these out in the meantime.
Well, could you identify them and let's have them marked?
Right. So the first is a series of photographs. One is an aerial photograph that is basically a Google map image that shows the location of the crane site and the two photograph locations. The other two parts of the exhibit are photographs from the field taken on December 19th, which was the date of the field testing.
Do you want to mark those each one individual number or collectively A3 photo package?
I think the photo package would be fine. Just how many photos in total?
There's the one Google image and then two photos, so three images.
Three in what would be A3 if I'm following this correctly.
I'll give you the one to mark and pass a few out. I don't think we have for everybody, but share a few each side. Okay, we can share.
Okay, so Mitch, referencing A3, what do the photographs represent?
So the photographs represent the locations that the pictures were taken. Started out, pretty much everybody who met in the field was by the Rockingham parking lot. The crane had been up for a while, and just for a little background, we didn't start this project by dropping it in and then hoping that we wouldn't be able to see the silos when we got done. We had actually, many months ago, in preparation for this, spotted in an area with the Trap Rock staff in the quarry that we felt would not be visible, did a preliminary crane test, and then this was a secondary one so that we could have the staff members out there. So in this crane test, you can see basically the plan view that the photo was taken from the Rockingham lot across what was referenced were the recent solar panels that have been installed and to the area of the crane. So the second photo, and the reason it was taken where it is, as you see, is actually on Trap Rock property. It's on that loop drive that goes out to 27. When we were at the end of Laurel Lane, we couldn't even see anything to estimate where the crane was. So we wanted to take a picture so anybody else would know what the crane looked like and that it was actually up there on that date. So photograph 1 again shows from the Rockingham parking lot, and again, no leaves on the trees, total view shed open, snow on the ground, and again, not visible. I should mention that besides some board members and staff, that DNR Canal staff was represented as well to review the view shed. Photograph 2 from the loop road, there just in the distance, you can see the crane. It's the blue piece sticking up just above the tree line in the distance there. So.
Did you also prepare an exhibit to demonstrate the sightline distances?
Yes, I did.
I'd ask that, then, could you describe it, and I'll ask it be marked as A4.
Certainly. This is one sheet. It's a concrete plant sightline profile exhibit, SL1, dated 1/7/14. And what it is in two parts. The plan view shows a sight line along Laurel Drive, since, again, where we didn't take the photo from so you could see the sight line. And the portion of the plan above that shows the elevation following that sight line. And this is
A4, please. With your permission, of course. Would you distribute a few copies, Mitch? What you have?
You get the A4. Mr. Pettit out. And I have a large version here, which I'll refer to, A4. So what this represents is basically if you were at the nearest residential properties. As I stated, we're from the plant itself to the property line is about 617 feet, a good distance. To actually where that residential home is along Laurel is about 1,600 feet. So one line is from right at the house. The second shot B, which we also show a sight line on, is from the closest point in that residential area. Again, not too many people are going to take a drive to the end of Laurel, but if you were there looking, that would be the sight line. So A shows the top one. Basically, it shows that you're going to be hitting the tops of the trees as you go along Laurel, and that's even before you get to the berm, and that berm that's located, as described, along the southerly property line of the quarry. So that's a large 30 to 40-foot berm
Mitch,
planted with
our
the trees.
construction of the easel is failing.
Yes, we need a better structural engineer. There we go. So the A line is from the furthest photo, is the top. Again, as I said, you're through the tops of the trees, and then you're looking basically over where we had the crane. Just one other point on the crane, we had that crane up about 10 feet higher than the 98 feet that we're looking for. So just to show that we had it up even with a factor of safety on that. So again, that line, you'd be looking over it. The closer one, point B, you actually have more of a benefit since you're closer to the obstruction of the large berm and the trees. You'd really be looking right into the berm and the base of the trees and not be able to see the silo or the office component of the structure and the bins either. So I think both of those with this and the
From
and
your
the photographs.
perspective, what was your conclusion as a result of these examinations, both the physical test and the sightline preparation?
That to the adjoining properties, there'll be no visual impact from this proposed project.
Okay.
Quick question, Mitch.
Yep.
On Laurel, where there's the gates, basically the end of where the public can access Laurel, do you know where that is exactly?
That's just past where I have B here. The gates are, I'm pointing to where the dark line here is the right-of-way cul-de-sac, so it's just right about there is where the gates are.
Okay, because, I mean, when I was there, Jim and Vince and I drove to the end of Laurel and stopped. And we could definitely attest to the fact that we stopped and looked, knowing where it might be, and we could not see the crane.
And we also should point out that when we looked at all this, there was no foliage on the trees either.
Right,
Trees
exactly.
were bare, so.
Right.
And we still couldn't see the crane no matter where we were.
The other photos bear that out. Thank you.
Mr. Healy also asked for some photos or descriptions of the what the plant itself will look like. Were you able to secure any?
Yes.
Now, these are similar prototypes to the model that will be installed here?
That's correct.
And how many of those do you have?
There are 3 photographs.
Okay, so A5 is back.
A5 package of 3?
3 photographs. The first one is a plant that's in Elizabeth, New Jersey. The second 2 photographs are a plant as it was under construction. I believe it's just about complete at this time in Tinton Falls.
Thanks.
Mitch, it's my understanding that that information was requested to give the board some perception or idea of what the plant would look like.
That's correct.
Are there any particular features about that that are...
Well, you can get a better sense of the features that I was explaining in the plan view. So you see that on the center, the highest point, that's basically the cement bins there. Just behind them, shaded a little bit, would be some silos that are behind there. So the main white structures of the cement bin and the silos behind it. You can see the conveyor belt, which goes up to feed those bins there, and that would take the aggregate from the ground level and feed them up to the top. And then there are some adjoining office buildings to that main structure.
Now, this application meets the ordinance requirements in all respects with the exception of height. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And with regard to height, we're requesting that the board grant a variance to permit the height of the plant. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And for that purpose, could you describe exactly what variance we are seeking?
Sure. So we're seeking for the maximum height of 98 feet, and 50 feet is the maximum in the zone. As we said, the silo cement bins will be at that maximum height with other structures basically gaining up to that height, including the conveyor belt and some of the other building structures on site.
Now, in terms of that variance, have you had an opportunity to review the municipal land use law, the ordinance, the site, and make any determinations as to whether or not there's a benefit detriment analysis that could be provided here to the benefit of the applicant, the community, and the zoning ordinance?
Certainly. And I think that the benefits will clearly outweigh the detriments. As I said, the location of the plant has virtually no visual impact, as shown in the exhibits and the field visits that many of the members conducted. The accessory portions of the plant are essential in order to permit the operation to occur effectively and efficiently for this project. The site is remote, as we've said, no impact on adjoining properties, no visual impact. The internal circulation works well. As I stated, that it comes through the control gates that are operating and have operated at the quarry for many years. And so it's a complete and thorough design for the project.
Did you also analyze any planning principles that are, that the board may rely upon if they were to grant the variance?
Certainly, and so pursuant to the statute 40:55D2, the purposes that we believe will be furthered, firstly, Section A, which provides for efficient use of the land, and that goes along with also Section G, in that the plan provides for sufficient space and appropriate locations for industrial and commercial uses, such as the concrete plant. And basically, my support of that is what could be more appropriate than placing a plant like this interior to a quarry site. It's your M3, your most industrial zone in town. We utilize the existing infrastructure of ingress and egress, all the other support facilities that are already on this property and have been used in operation to support this activity. For this industrial type of use, it permits the use of these valuable natural resources, including the sand, concrete, and aggregate that will be used for this property. And finally, for Section O of the statute, wherein recycling recovery of concrete and asphalt materials are encouraged by the operations of the client on the site. There's along with the concrete, they reuse some of old concrete to mix it back in as appropriate. So for all those reasons, I believe this is a beneficial use of the site.
Now, Mitch, if the board were to grant the variance requested, in your view, would it upset the zoning scheme or plan for the municipality?
No, it would not.
And likewise, if the board were to grant the variance, do you think it would adversely impact the health or welfare of the community?
No, I think we've shown that there's no visual impact, and we don't see any other impacts that will have to the surrounding community.
Now, in conjunction with the application, the board consultants prepared various letters commenting on the plans and also requesting additional information which we presented this evening. Are you have you had an opportunity to review the letters of Mr. Hawk of December 11th and Mark Healy of December 3rd and of Vince Dominichak?
Yes.
Are there any issues there that you wish to discuss with the board, or are you in a position to say you can comply with all the requirements?
We can comply with each and every of the requirements.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any other, well, let me just, is there any other relief that the applicant seeks other than site plan approval and variance for the height of the plant?
That's it.
Mr. Chairman, I have no other direct questions of Mr. Ardman.
Okay, thank you. The board has any questions for Mr. Ardman?
Just how much noise does this generate? How much noise does this generate? Not. I mean, I know that you have the closest person is 1,200 yards away.
Yeah.
And how long is this going to be running? Is it 24/7? Is it 9 to 5 or?
They don't run 24/7.
Yeah, why don't,
George, if you give him the mic
Just-
so that it gets on the record.
It'll be normal operating hours, usually, say 6 to 6, depending on, I mean, if we have some state jobs that will have to run at night, we'll run at night. But the noise you're going to hear is basically the same thing you would hear if you're on the road and you had a mixer truck next to you and the barrel was turning.
Oh, okay,
It's
fine.
not loud at all.
Okay, fine.
But George, basically, this will operate in the same function and time frame as the quarry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other board members have questions for either of the witnesses or Mr. Ardman specifically? Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
With that, we'll need to open to the, Bob, you have a question?
No, I was just going to make a motion.
Go ahead. We'll open to the public, and then once we'll close, we
Yeah.
can make it.
I would move that this application be open to the public for a public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is now open for any comment on this particular application. If there's anyone who wishes to come forward.
Mr. Chairman, seeing no one coming forward, I would move that this public hearing be closed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask the board to approve the application. I think the plans are in compliance and what criteria have been asked to be modified, Mr. Arvin has said he can comply with. In terms of the variance, I think we've presented substantial evidence that the benefits of this application outweigh the detriments and that there's an adequate basis for the board to grant the variances requested. With that, I would ask the board to approve the application.
Mike, just a quick question. Has there been a report yet from DNR now?
I should have asked that question.
The outside, yes, a few technical things they want. They were out, I don't believe the visual impact they have any issue with the visual impact.
Okay, so their report is pending, but you're not anticipating any significant comments?
Correct.
Okay, and then in terms of the staff reports, I just went through it. They've satisfied my comments. The only other comments, frankly, that are outstanding, there are some technical things in the engineering report. That'd be the only staff comments that would be conditions of the approval if the board is so inclined.
Testify that you comply with, you testify that you comply with all those?
Yes.
And of course, you realize that DNR commission approval is obviously not in our hands, but obviously would be required for ultimate.
Yes.
Well, if I may add, interestingly enough, the county has granted an approval, and they deferred the review of the stormwater to DNR and to the township. And Mitch Ardman has been working with them, and I think we've satisfied those criteria.
Okay.
There's no further discussion. I move to approve this application.
Second.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Mr. LaCourte.
Yes.
Ms. MacGyver.
Yes.
Mr. Mettler.
Yes.
Mr. Pettit.
Yes.
Mr. Stevens.
Yes.
Mr. Potosnik.
Yes.
Mr. Onyaka.
Yes.
Chairman Orsini.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck. So our next hearing is going to be redev, PLN 13-00013.
Declared.
This isn't here yet.
Yeah. That's when we have to act by, I think, probably. My guess.
So these-
Yeah, I have to ask about that. Or you can ask about it. That may just be 1/6, but that's a lot. There's nothing built yet.
Well, we'll ask them, see what they say.
Maybe it's just like one unit. Because these are all different. If some of this may not be online yet. We'll ask.
You see, they've taken this right out.
But I noticed that.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Peter Lanford appearing on behalf of the applicant. This is an application for 31 variances to construct or to approve certain balconies that have been constructed with respect to the redev project. By way of history, in 2004, the predecessor owner of the subject property submitted an application for site plan approval for 114 units under a project name of Somerset Douglas Realty LLC. That application was approved by the planning board in 2005, and site plan approval was granted. When we submitted the application, and I did in fact handle the application back then, we provided to the board plans for the units, and I'm going to mark those as I marked the exhibit as A1. I'm going to mark the plans as A2. Those plans showed as part of the project balconies on all the units.
Hey, Peter, just a point of clarification. Are these units being constructed yet?
Some have been constructed, yes, and some have yet to be constructed, but they're under construction. And actually, I have photographs of some of the units that are constructed with the balconies.
Okay.
Okay. What happened was in 2005, the site plan showed the buildings with the setback. The ordinance requirement is that the buildings be set back 20 feet from the perimeter of the property. The buildings are set back 20 feet from the perimeter of the property. The balconies were not shown on the site plan because they were not on the ground. The balconies, some of them are less than 20 feet from the property line. That was not discovered or ascertained until just recently when the owner went in to submit plot plans, because the buildings are constructed and they were measured, and I don't know if it was Mr. Dominic or Mr. Hauk who said you have to dimension them from the balconies, not from the building itself. And thus, it created a situation where there are 31 units where the balconies are, some of them are 6 inches over the 20 feet, so they're 19 feet 6 inches. The worst case scenario, one of them is about 12 and a half feet. Most of them are less than 18 inches from the, or over the 20-foot setback requirement. So I think what happened was, and I think we're, and Mr. Healy was not around at the original applications, we never sought to add balconies. Balconies were always on the architectural plans that were submitted in 2005. However, they were never transferred or never related to the site plan, which was also approved in 2005. And it was just recently ascertained that, you know, if you put the two together, we have a little bit of an issue. As you are further aware, we were back before the board last year to modify the plan to add a new entrance. We actually deleted 8 units. The property is under construction, so we're trying to seek approval for these balconies because we do need the variances in order to get the final COs for these buildings and be able to sell the units. I'm going to also provide another set of drawings which basically show some of the balconies that have been constructed. I have them as a wide range view and a double view and then of a single balcony. So I will mark this exhibit of 3 photographs as A3.
How many photos are in there, Pete?
There's 3 in each.
They're coming.
And I just want to be certain, you're only looking for variances on the units on the perimeter of the property?
They're all on the perimeter of the property, correct? Because the ordinance requirement is that the units be 20 feet from the perimeter. I am going to call basically one witness to go through all 31 units very briefly to show them, if you can really see them on the board, and sort of describe where they are in relationship to the adjacent properties so that the board can determine that really they have a de minimis effect on the adjacent properties. That witness can be sworn in.
All right, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please state your full name for the record.
Gene Santana, G-E-N-E-S-A-N-T-A-N-A.
Thank you very much,
Mr. Santana, by whom are you employed?
By John Truhan Consulting Engineers.
Okay, and you're a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey?
Yes, I am.
And when were you licensed?
1991.
Okay, and your firm has been working and preparing the plot plans and coming up with the all of the revisions to the plans that were required in conjunction with this application?
Yes,
And
that's
you're-
correct.
Okay, I would offer his testimony as a licensed professional engineer, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Santana, I have marked on the board to my right an Exhibit A1, which is an exhibit showing the subject property and the buildings that are being constructed on the property. First of all, the buildings that are being constructed presently and the buildings that are going to be constructed, they are in the same location as the approved site plan from 2004. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So none of the buildings have moved, none of the buildings have changed?
That's correct.
Okay. And what happened was, in preparing the plot plans, we were asked to take measurements not from the buildings but from the decks. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and you heard my remarks that some of them are as little as 6 inches off the line, and some of them are about 7.5 feet.
Some are 6 inches
And the worst-case scenario is one lot that's basically 12, it's 12.5, so it's 7.5 feet off the property line.
That is correct.
Okay, can you take the board, and you can go to the board,
Yes.
through the lots and try to point them out and show their relationship to the adjoining properties?
Yes, if we start up at the northern part of the site, the units in the 300, in the 6-unit complex that's labeled the 300 series units, the balconies are all overhanging a street, Dunbar Street. As we go more to the west, that set is overhanging a little bit into the side yards. Those are basically the de minimis ones. The smallest distance to the setback is 18 feet. If we go more towards Alfred Avenue to the western side of the subdivision here, they are, the balconies are rearing along the homes that are along Douglas Avenue. They're very deep lots. The closest unit 325 is, the closest distance to the nearest dwelling is 165 feet, plus or minus.
116 and a half.
I'm sorry?
You said 165
165, correct.
feet?
Feet, correct.
I'm talking about the balconies along the perimeter.
Yes, these are all balconies along the perimeter.
I'm looking at, I checked them all off. 12 and a half feet, 14
Now,
feet.
he's saying it's 165 feet from the closest dwelling.
Yes.
I don't care about that. I want to know what they're off the property line.
Okay.
I mean,
Well, but the issue is,
unless you
obviously,
want to look in the window, I understand.
Yeah.
Privacy.
Right.
All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No problem.
I missed what you said.
Right, that's actually the closest one. That one's 12 and a half feet off the property line, the setback from the balcony.
and what unit number or lot number is that?
That would be unit number 325.
And that's basically the corner unit as you come into the site?
That is, yes.
Okay, and that is the unit that you indicated the closest residence?
Yes, that would have that would be the closest, that's the unit that's closest to the property line.
Okay, and the closest, and the building that is closest to it off the property is the building that's 165 feet away?
That is correct.
Okay.
As we continue on the southern side of the site, all of these overhangs overhang towards Somerset Street. The closest units would be across the street, Somerset Street.
And across the street from those units is the cemetery, so we're not
That is
going to
correct.
be impacting anybody with those units, is that correct?
No, we would not be.
Only 2 units that do that, right? There's only 2 units there.
There are 2 units there, yes, that we are
Only 2 out of the
requesting. Correct.
Okay, then if we go around to the other side, which is the side facing Somerset, which is Henry Street and formerly the sister project Somerset Henry. To the right, those are townhouses on the adjoining property, is that correct?
That is correct, those are townhouses.
Okay, and can you indicate which units are affected and what is their relationship to that townhouse project?
Okay, in relation to Unit 289 is the only one that's requesting the variance, and that has an 18.7 feet distance. As we go more towards the north.
And that unit, what does it look, if you stand on that deck, what's behind that unit?
You'd be seeing a parking lot for the adjacent
Okay.
residents. As we go more towards the north, again, we see the condo buildings there, and that's also a parking area along there, an access driveway. And that ranges from approximately 13.3 feet off of Unit 277 to the farthest most north unit, down to about 17.7 feet to the furthest south unit.
Okay, and most of those variances that we're seeking in that section of buildings abut the parking lot of Somerset Henry, is that correct?
That is correct.
So in reality, most of the units either abut a parking lot, abut a street, on Dunbar Street abut Route 27, or the ones that are closest to residences on Douglas Avenue or deep single-family lots with a substantial separation between the balconies and the residences on Douglas Avenue. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and do you feel that the granting of these variances would have any impact on any of the adjacent residential properties or uses surrounding our subject property?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Any questions from the board for this witness?
Opinion is as good as mine.
I had a question about the fence. On the plan, it shows that it's a chain link fence. Is that already installed, or is that planned to be installed, or is it a white fence, if I recall?
There is a white fence on Route 27, which was approved by the board last year, and there is a fence along a portion, actually there's a wall and a fence on Douglas, and Dunbar is a chain link fence. Is that correct, Mr. Noodleman, if I recollect?
Yes, that fence is not in yet.
Yes.
Dunbar is just a fence.
Okay.
Pete, you just,
We'll swear
yeah,
him
just
in.
if he wants to talk, you got to swear him in, so we get it on the record there.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, please state your full name for the record.
Erwin Noodleman, and I work for Redev Group.
Okay. The fence along Dunbar, that's a chain link fence?
Yes, that's the existing fence. That fence will ultimately come down and be replaced with a new chain link fence that has internal slats to it and a significant amount of landscaping. And that'll be done at the same time that the buildings in that back area are constructed.
Okay, and then for the one that faces, I guess, 27, is there any landscaping that's going to go in there in front of that fence?
Yes, and much of it has already been in place.
And I don't think that fence is chain link, is it?
No, that's,
It says on the plan it is, but it's not.
it's on the approved plan that this board approved last year. That's a vinyl fence, and it's up and in place as a white vinyl fence with landscaping in front of it.
Because on the plan, it does say chain link.
Okay.
Yeah, that was part of what the board imposed as part of that approval, and they've worked that out, and they've constructed it.
See, it says chain link.
Is it permissive for us to request on this variance, Mr. Chairman, more landscaping
That's
or more
325.
shrubbery? I find the fence is very noticeable when you're driving down. It has a very different sort of texture than the rest of the area.
Are you talking about the one on 27?
The one on 27.
Enough here is the
Is all the landscaping in on that?
77.
I think most of it is it all in, Irwin?
Most of the landscaping is in. Obviously, it still has to, we planted it in the late fall, almost early winter. One of the things that we did do, that fence was originally supposed to just be a straight fence that runs to 600 and some odd feet. Working with Mr. Healy and others, we ended up making the fence go kind of meander its way down Route 27, so it did not look like just a straight fence running 600 and some odd feet. And then we planted trees intermittently as the fence comes in and out, and spent a lot of time with Mr. Healy and others. So much of that planting is in and is sodded, and you'll see a substantial impact as we move through the seasons. We've even added more trees on the inside of the fence, large trees, to kind of help block some of 27 from one of the buildings, one of which we're seeking a variance on the balcony. So we've added some landscaping, and I think what's in there is what's in there, as it relates to Route 27 anyways.
To answer that question more broadly, generally when you have variances like this, so to the question of can you impose requirements in terms of fencing or landscaping, the answer is if you feel there's an impact, there would be an impact from the variance, and you feel that the additional planting and the fencing would mitigate those impacts, then you can impose it.
Thank you.
But yeah, I do actually recall now considerable discussion on the fence and the landscaping, and that the fence wouldn't be just linear.
Yeah,
So we'll see what things look like in the spring, but whatever, if something weren't to make it, right, you'd have to.
We'd have to post a maintenance bond to make sure that the plants survive. And actually, they were just planted, and a lot of them, they're going to grow in time.
Right. Well, if they were planted in the fall, then they're not going to have any impact until spring, so.
Right.
I didn't notice any trees, but you're driving fast sometimes near there.
You're not allowed to drive fast on 27.
Okay, so you have any other witnesses?
I have no other witnesses.
Let's just, if you would just go through the comments, so there's just a couple things that stick out to me. On Mark's report, Unit 344, the balcony variance map omitted that lot?
We've changed it, we noticed for it, and I think we've got all 31 of them covered.
And what's your variance, C1 or C2?
It's a C2 where the benefits outweigh the detriments. The only other report that had any comment was Mr. Houck's report, and it says that show the location of all stormwater easements. We, as part of the last approval, are in the process of cleaning up everything, and part of what was shown on the last approval, which is still being worked through, are the stormwater easements. I don't think that is necessarily part of this application. We will be showing them, but obviously all we're asking for is the deck variance.
Yeah, and I think, Pete, we had talked about that you were going to request the board to allow us to issue zoning and construction permits prior to the resolution, because some of these buildings will be coming shortly, which the board has done in the past for minor applications for this, so.
And we have people that are hopefully going to be moving in shortly, so if the board were to grant the variances, we'd like to get the CO.
Yeah, and I'm sure the stormwater easements will appear on the final plot.
Yes.
Seal has a question.
We have a report that as of November the 12th, the fourth quarter taxes were open and due.
I believe they have been paid, but if not, if you make them a condition, they will be paid immediately.
And also the unpaid sewer.
Same response.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounded ominous, because it says subject to tax sale for unpaid sewer on Unit 324, and that sounds fairly ominous, but I'm sure that's just...
It's probably a bookkeeping error either with us or with the township, but we just...
Unlikely to have a brand new development go up for a tax sale.
Well, no, it's only one unit, but quite frankly, we closed a loan on this just fairly recently, and in order to close the loan, we had to pay off all taxes, and I was involved in the loan closing, so I know that as of at least the middle of this, end of the summer, all of the taxes had been paid, so.
That's fine. We're just going through the reports. I was fairly certain there was an explanation.
My client confirmed that they have been paid.
Okay. And this was dated November 12th, so, almost 2 months ago, so. So you have nothing further. Does the board have anything further from anyone? No? So.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the meeting be open to the public for a hearing on this application.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is now open for any comments on this application, if anyone wishes to come forward. And we do have some. Can you just state your name?
Just make sure that mic's on, please.
It's on.
I don't think it's on. Pete will help you.
Our technical assistant will be right over.
Everybody gets put to work here.
Pete can't get it to work. It's not going to work.
Thank you. Marie Bowler, 99 Dunbar Street.
Okay, Ms. Bowler, are you going to make comments or questions?
I'm not sure.
All right, I'll swear you in anyway.
Okay.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, then it's Mary Bowler.
Marie Bowler. I live directly across the street from one of the buildings, okay? Now, question. I know, speaking to you guys earlier, it was 19 feet from the fence across from my lot, across from my house. Now, stupid question, is it from the top of the fence, from the bottom of the fence, or in the middle of the fence that you're taking this 19 feet?
There's actually two lots, and I did discuss this with her outside earlier this evening. Just for the record, her property is across from lots number 11 and 13. One of the balconies is 18 and a half feet, and the other one is 19 and a half feet, and they are measured from the property line.
Okay.
And ultimately, when the new fence is constructed, the new fence will be at the property line, so it will be both 19 or 18 and a half feet from both the property line and the fence.
Okay, when will the construction start on those buildings? Approximately when?
That I can't answer, but I'm sure Mr. Noodleman may have an idea.
Well, those will be the last buildings that'll get built in the development, so obviously it's going to be subject to sale. It's probably going to be at least a year before those buildings get built. We're presently building the first half of the project.
Okay.
Obviously, the fence will get built consistent with the building getting done, and that whole area will be cleaned up, and the old fence will be taken down.
Okay, that's great. The fence, how high is it going to be? I don't know if that was ever in question prior to. I don't remember.
It's on the original plan.
It was on the original plans, and to be honest, I don't remember tonight what it was. Is it 6 feet?
6 feet.
6 feet, and there are slats in there, so it's not, it's a chain link fence, but you will not be able to see through
Okay,
it.
no, I wasn't sure of the height of the.
6 feet.
All right, thank you.
Plan says 7-foot chain link fence.
That was easy. Anybody else from the public?
Mr. Chairman, seeing no one else coming forward, I would move that the public hearing on this application be closed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, the plan, just for the record, the plan says.
The plan says
That may be the existing fence as opposed to the approved fence.
Okay.
Okay, that I think shows the existing fence.
Yeah, just because there's some confusion. This is basically a survey, really. It's
Right.
an as-built survey. So what they're ultimately going to approve, every last detail is on the site plan maps.
Right, which
That
was
this board has approved previously.
Okay, so, motion?
I think Ted has a question.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
I was on the bus going up Somerset Street today, and I noticed how the buildings right at the front, your lots 289 through 294, how they sort of loomed over the buildings on Melissa Meadows just to the right. And those are not ones that are where the variance is being asked for. But at the very back, again, there are buildings on Melissa Meadows. What is shown on the plan is now a formerly Somerset Henry condominium. There are buildings that are very close, are quite close to the property line. So I would think that if there were any balconies that might be objectionable because they might be looking in the windows of the building on Melissa Meadows, it would be the ones on lots 277, 278, and 279. And the one on 277, of course, although it's a little bit catty-corner to that building, it is the one that is the second closest to the property line of all of those for which the variance is requested. So my feeling is I'd approve all of them but those three and ask that there not be balconies on those three buildings.
Ted, would it help if there were trees there along the fence line?
There's going to be a while before they grow big enough to affect the second-story balcony.
You can buy
even
big
if they're
trees.
conifers.
Leyland cypress.
You can buy big ones.
Deer are probably not a problem on this property.
I'm not sure what type of tree would solve that issue, especially given the space that's involved there. Maybe some type of, columnar formed shade tree or something that doesn't get too wide and at least would leaf during the summer.
We can look into something. Also, Dr. Chase, the one that is the closest, which is 277, as it faces the building in Melissa Meadows, that building there is set further back than the other buildings. So although the balcony is closer, the building is further away, but we can look at doing something. We also do have a fairly good relationship with the people in Melissa Meadows, and it may be the trees can go on the other side of the fence or something to make it work.
I just felt those are the few where they're really close to a building on the adjoining property. The ones along Liam Street front, either look out on Dunbar Street, or they look out on the garage side of lot 238.11 of Block 1, the same block as this. And then, as was pointed out earlier, the ones along Alfred Avenue look out on some very deep backyards from Douglas Avenue.
Yeah.
So those 2 or 3 are the ones that might be really objectionable.
Yeah, well, first of all, the property owners of those units were noticed. They're not here tonight, but my client indicated that we will come up with some larger shade trees that we will put between those units and those balconies, and we'll give the details to Mr. Healy, so we'll add some trees in there.
All right, so we'll make it a condition subject to
Right.
planning approval, if that would satisfy.
That's good. That's worked out. I mean, there are places that do sell, larger trees.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it can be done. But,
Lombardy, poplar, there's some sort of...
any other comments from the board on this? So if not,
If there's no further discussion, I move the approval with the aforementioned conditions.
I'll second it.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Mr. LaCourte,
Yes.
Mr. MacGyver,
Yes.
Mr. Mettler,
Yes.
Mr. Pettit,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
yes.
Mr. Potosnik,
Yes.
Mr. Onyaka,
Yes.
Chairman Orsini.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you very much.
So our last application tonight is PLN 13-00014, Rosenwalk Tank. Something tells me that you're representing them as well.
Yes, I am.
I like that, that's good.
Changing that around.
Could be made too. With these buildings are kind of tall.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Peter Lanford appearing on behalf of Rosenwalk Tank.
Did you?
This is, I don't remember if you got John did it. I know part of it's not, we should have, that was
Yeah, I think, I spoke to John House about that. I just got this today, and that's fine. Mr. Chairman, I've marked as an exhibit before I give an introduction. I'm going to pass this out as an exhibit of A1 to describe some background on Rosenwalk Group and Rosenwalk Tank, and then I'll describe the application.
I'm going to take a set from, because for some reason.
Mr. Chairman, this is, members of the board, this is an application for a variance to permit outside storage of materials on property owned by Rosenwalk Tank, which is located at the intersection of Randolph Road and Schoolhouse Road. On the subject property is an existing building of approximately 195,000 square feet. The building is accessed by two driveways, one on Schoolhouse and one on Randolph. The Rosenwalk Tank Company, which has its main offices in New York, purchased the building last year. There is a tenant in 100,000 square feet, which is warehousing, and Rosenwalk operates out of the remaining 100,000 square feet. The application before the board is a fairly simple application. Right now, we store, or started to store materials used in the manufacturing of the tanks, which are in the brochures that you're looking at, outside. They're in the back of the building. They are not visible from any other property or roadway, and these are the materials that are used in the construction of the tanks that you're looking at. Your ordinance does not permit outside storage, and that is the variance that we are seeking, which is to store the materials outside. I will have Mr. Rosenwalk be sworn in to testify as to his company, what they do, and why we would need this variance. And I'll deal with some of the staff reports after that. So Mr. Rosenwalk can be sworn. This is.
Raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, just state your full name for the record.
Andrew Rosenwalk.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Lanford, I saw a program on these tanks, and I was amazed that New York City, all those buildings still use wooden tanks. I couldn't believe it.
There's actually, if the board had an opportunity, there's a YouTube video. If you Google Rosenwalk tank, it's a really interesting video about their company and their operation. But I'll have Mr. Rosenwalk give you a little bit of a background. You can be seated, Mr. Rosenwalk. Mr. Rosenwalk, you are the managing member of Rosenwalk Tank Company.
Yes, just one side comment. My father always said if we didn't have enough business to put the tanks up, because he didn't envision that they would be needed as they are today. You are correct. We'd have enough business to take them down. But yes, I'm the manager of the company.
I'm just curious, does the Freedom Tower have any type of water tank at the top? The Freedom Tower?
Yes, the Freedom Tower is 2 wood tanks on top and intermediate steel tanks of about, they're like houses. They're 30 feet high and they're on intermediate floors.
Amazing. So they're
It
using
is.
wooden tanks too?
On the very top, there are, yeah.
Okay, Mr. Rosenwalk, where are the corporate offices of Rosenwalk Tank Company?
We're out in Long Island City, New York.
And how long has the company been in business?
I'm the 4th generation. My son is the 5th, and we started out in 1895.
Okay, and what kind of facility do you have in Long Island?
In Long Island City, we basically have a steel and sheet metal facility. Our offices are there, and we stage for contracting services, which we maintain at that site.
As I indicated in my opening, you purchased the building here in Franklin Township last year and are moving a portion of your operation to Franklin Township. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, we have the wood mill that we operated in a Brooklyn facility that we're relocating into the building, as well as the facilities that we have in Long Island City for the steel and sheet metal, which complement the manufacturing of steel tanks and cooling towers.
Okay. Now, dealing with the existing structure here in Somerset, the existing building, as I indicated to you, to the board, there is a tenant beside yourself. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that tenant operates 100,000 square feet and is a warehousing facility, correct?
Yes.
And how many employees generally does that tenant have at the present time?
There's about 20 people.
Okay. And your facility, you're operating at the present time within the confines of the facility?
Yes, we are manufacturing all the wood tanks that service New York
Okay.
right now.
And how many employees do you currently have there?
We have 3 people.
Okay. Ultimately, when you're fully operational, how many employees do you envision having there?
Between 20 and 25.
Okay. So between the 2 facilities and the 200,000 square foot building, there'll be about 45 to 50 employees.
That's correct.
Okay, and at the present time, if you go to the subject property and you enter the property from Randolph, most of the employees for either of the companies park on the left side of the, in that parking lot?
Right, it's about 54 spaces there.
Okay. And that is more than adequate to handle the present needs and even some of the future needs of both of the properties, is that correct? Or both of the users?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, tell the board generally what Rosenwalk does and what it does at this site.
At this site, we will be manufacturing the wood tanks that you see on top of the buildings in the city and various locales, and some, of course, in Jersey and Newark and Hoboken. And we also will be manufacturing a national line of cooling towers that we're slowly growing into, as well as a national line of exterior site furnishings. That's basically, as well as steel tanks. And that's basically what the facility will house. It's normal business hours. We start around 7 and we'll end up around 4 or 5 in the evening.
Okay. Now, at the present time, you are already started to store some material outside.
Yes,
Okay.
we have lumber stored outside.
And didn't realize you needed some sort of an approval to do that.
No, I apologize.
Okay. The material that you store outside is in the back of the building, basically where parking spaces were delineated as part of the original approval. Is that correct?
Right, the lumber is stored strictly on the parking stripe spaces, and it does not interfere with the lanes.
Any of the, okay, and that's where you're proposing, you're basically taking 3 lanes of what we're parking and storing either the materials for the cooling or the materials for the water tank, is that correct?
Right, strictly the raw materials for the products we make.
Okay. And why did you decide to store them outside?
Well, we have limited space for production when we get everything housed. And talking to the Township, who I was glad to meet, they said for the lumber, they would even prefer to see the lumber, which is long lengths and heavy stock, stored outside.
Where do you get your lumber from?
The lumber comes from rail, and it's forested in British Columbia.
Okay, from British Columbia, how does it get to Somerset?
It comes in through railroads, and then from the railroad, it gets unloaded in a depot in Jersey and gets trucked with flatbeds into Somerset.
Okay, and how many deliveries of lumber do you envision getting during the course of a given year?
We would end up getting approximately 3 to 4 car rails coming in, which would be equivalent to about 3 trailers at a time when we get those deliveries.
So you get 3 trailers 3 or 4 times a year?
That's correct.
Okay, and you have to buy the material in that size. You can't buy lesser material in order to get it...
That's correct. Not for the products we have to be obligated to make.
Okay, and for the cooling tanks, what kind of material is imported to the subject property?
This is sheets of stainless and galvanized, 14 gauge, 11 gauge, 16 gauge, and they come in flatbeds, and that would end up with right now maybe 1 flatbed coming in every 3 or 4 months.
Okay. Once you manufacture either the cooling tanks or the water tanks, are you going to be manufacturing the furniture there also?
Yes, that's correct.
How do you get it off the property once it's done?
We ship the site furnishings in moving vans, and the cooling towers are in flatbeds. This all comes from commercial traffic. The water tanks, which are shipped in lumber form, bundles of lumber, drafts of lumber, we truck back into the city with our own trucks.
And how many outgoing deliveries do you have during the course of a week or a month? Or
we average about two trips to the city every week, 2 or 3 trips.
So in reality, if I do my math real quickly, this whole operation, you're going to have 2 or 3 trips going out every week, and basically 15 to 20 flatbeds coming in during the course of a year to deliver your raw product.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, the materials that are outside, there was a comment concerning a issue of pollution. Is the lumber that's stored outside treated lumber?
No, it's just the raw lumber as it's forested from the tree, which is well forested in the mill that takes it.
Okay. And so the lumber comes in, it comes to the facility, you then take it inside the building. What do you do with it in the building?
We put it through our molders, our planers. We actually, it's a nice video when Mike Rowe had come in through the Discovery Channel. He filmed the process, and the lumber gets cut and finished for the assembly, which is very much like putting a dining room table together for the wood tank, basically. It's a very much refined process.
And then it gets shipped back out. The tank doesn't get shipped back. The materials get shipped.
The materials get shipped back.
And then the tank is constructed in place at the site where it's going to be used.
Yes.
Okay. And your hours of operation, you indicate, is basically a 7 to 5 operation, or 8 to 5?
That's correct.
Okay. And the area that we are proposing to store the raw materials, that area is not needed for parking for your employees, for your tenants' employees, or for your future employees. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. We have more than adequate parking, not only pursuant to the zoning ordinance, but also pursuant to your needs. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. You and I discussed some of the staff comments, and I think I'm going to deal with this very quickly so that we can get it on the record. In our original proposal, which we submitted a survey of the subject property plus the location of the materials, we showed the fact that we were going to construct a fence around the materials. By constructing a fence to secure the materials, we were blocking some of the drive aisles. Mr. Rosenwalk and I discussed it. We decided we are going to remove from the plan the fence. Those materials, we were initially concerned a little bit about security, but he's been there for a while. There have been no issues with security since all of these materials are not visible. And so we're going to remove the fence from the plan so that all drive aisles will remain open so vehicles can move freely in and around the subject property. And consistent with that, there should be a condition, I assume that Mr. Healy will request, that the areas that are designated as the areas where the materials are stored will be in the area which were parking spaces, and there will be no materials within the confines of the drive aisle. To the rear of that area, there was an area that was designated for trailer parking, and there is an easement. We will still continue to store some materials within the rear of the property, which was shown on the plans, but we will remove all the materials, so there will be no materials that will be stored within or on the easement.
So, Peter, how do you know that all these materials are not going to be visible from anywhere? How do you know Summerfield's not going to see them?
They're behind the building. If you've been there, and I've been there on numerous occasions, our building is a fairly massive building, fairly high building, and for the record, the materials, I guess the height of the materials that will be stored will be no more than 12 feet, is that correct?
12 or 15 feet.
So, in other words, the building itself screens the materials.
Right, and there are actually on the adjoining properties large warehouses. There is no way you can see any of those materials.
Well, I'm less concerned about warehouses, but I was more concerned about any residential.
All right.
So the second question I have regarding the removal of the fence. So this doesn't present any sort of like safety hazard, like say like at night, some trailers coming in, you're driving and all of a sudden you're driving over a load of lumber. I mean, shouldn't there be some sort of demarcation of the, storage site? I'm a little uncomfortable with the removal of the fence. I got to be honest with you. So
You see, the parking lot is 100% lighted up at night. It's just totally shining.
But there's no way that you can construct a fence around the storage area where you wish to store things without it encroaching in the drive aisles? There's no way to do that?
You would have to construct basically what would be 3 or 4 separate bullpens almost around each section, which would be totally impractical.
See, the lumber's about 20 feet long, and we'd need sliding doors that would almost take up the whole fence by the time you open up to take the lumber out. But this way, the aisles for the fire trucks and cars, if they need access into it, and we need access with forklifts, it's very, very practical for us. But at night, even though no one's in the parking lot, it's 100% lit.
And the doors to the building are actually in that general vicinity, and those doors that, if it is a tractor trailer, are your employees would be using those doors, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. The other company that is the tenant, where do they load or unload their materials?
Well, in the back of the building, but it's on the building is half of it. We're occupying half of it. They're occupying, and they're on another half that has no storage in front of it.
So your tenant has no reason to have any of their trucks coming into the area where you are located, and your materials would be located. Is that correct?
That's correct, and they have limited hours on agreement that they can only operate between 8 and 5.
So they wouldn't be coming in at night anyway. One of the other things.
But, okay, but yeah, I understand what you're saying, but yet and still, when you came in with the initial plan, there was a fence on 3 sides, just not along the easterly property line is noted in. So it must have been possible to at least partially fence the material off. What changed?
Well, the staff comments, we got to.
Right, no, I saw that.
And also, we thought it may be necessary for security and felt it after a fact, it wasn't. I mean, one of the other things we did talk about is if we felt that we needed to secure the property, which was the purpose of the fence, we can ultimately put gates at each of the driveways so that, you know, when the place is closed, if it's necessary, we would just put gates at each of the driveways.
I'm not too concerned about anybody making off with any of this stuff. It just sounds a little too large to just like, you know, without being, you know, pretty obvious about it. I would think that's, you know.
Well, you know, ironically, the fact that it's not visible also makes it easier for somebody to go back there and take it if they wanted to take it, because you can't see anything back there.
Yeah, but I mean, they need some real equipment to do it. It's not like I can drive up in my pickup truck and just get a load of lumber. It doesn't sound from 20-foot lengths. All right.
We've seen
Not that I have
backhoes
a
disappear
pickup
in this
truck or any
town.
intent on doing that. Oh, yeah, I'm sure, yeah. I'm sure for the determined. So let me just ask a different question then. So if a fence isn't possible, would it at least be possible to outline the storage area with striping? Like a yellow stripe or something that would say, this is your storage area.
Sure.
You see where I'm coming from. I'm just a little uncomfortable with that stuff just being like out there and not, you know.
That's
delineated in some way.
That's fine. We can put the yellow paint that's normally used for fire lanes, and the aisle between the end, our last of our piles of material can be delineated so that they'll know there's materials on the other side of that.
And that would make me feel a little bit better.
And my goal is to make you feel a little bit better.
I'm glad. You're about,
Peter,
the, only one. You're about the only one.
Just to clarify, so when you were saying that so basically it's going to be stored on the plan where you have the X's kind of drawn out, is that?
Yes, and those are all parking spaces right now.
So it's basically those 3 areas, right?
There's 4. There's 3 that are, and then the one in the rear, which is.
That's going to be my follow-up question. So the area in the rear, there will be an area, but it's not going to be, it's going to be redelineated, so it will be outside the easement.
That will be moved outside the easement, right. And what I'm suggesting is where it shows on the plan that we submitted, there is actually on the other side where it says gate, there's actually 2 rows of parking there. They're not shown on this plan because they were sort of irrelevant to what we were doing, but there are 2 rows of parking. That driveway or that drive aisle we can paint with yellow paint to delineate the area where the materials are being stored.
How are you storing the lumber material?
Excuse me?
Is the lumber laying on the ground, or is it in racks? Is it covered in any way to protect it from the elements?
No, thank you.
Do you take it inside?
We've always stored it outside without any type of tarps, and the lumber is basically put on sleepers and piled
Like you would
by
do, like you
drafts.
do logs?
Yes.
Like you would put fireplace lumber?
Yeah, there's no racks.
It's just piled up?
Yes.
And
On drafts of lumber, maybe 2 drafts on top of
Right,
each other.
and then you can pick up with a forklift and take it in or whatever.
Yes.
How long are these logs?
Between 14 to 20 feet.
Okay, so, all right.
They're not logs, they're just
No,
rough.
I use the term log only to describe
Yes, sir.
how you crib them, or how you know, got to let air circulate through them, so you have to crib-
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
so you have to crib them, so.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Unless they're cedar.
I had a question.
Western cedar.
They're cedar?
Yes, western cedar.
What are the ovals between the X's? Is that cement or something?
Now, the little zeros are ovals?
Parking islands.
No, not the zeros, I guess are for the fence, but the big, you know, sort of, I don't know what you call that. It's like an oval.
The parking islands.
It's a parking island?
Yeah, that's
Oh.
the old parking space.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
oh,
these
I
were
see.
the end of the parking aisles, and these are all actually parking spaces.
Okay. They're the things I always run over.
Excuse me, that's where your lighting is, right? The lighting is.
There's some lighting in there also.
That's where they are in
Yeah.
in those islands.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm sorry, are you done, are you probably not done with your testimony?
I am done with my testimony.
You are. So everything's fine in the staff reports? Nothing?
That's right. The only thing I have, and Mr. Healy asked that I put it on the record, first of all, he had asked a question of, by eliminating these parking spaces, do we still have sufficient parking spaces by virtue of our need, which I think we testified to, and also by ordinance? There are currently delineated on the site of roughly 136 parking spaces. The ordinance requires 86 for this type of use, so even if you take these parking spaces out, we are over the minimum requirements. We will provide all of that information in a lot data table, which was one of the things that Mr. Hauk requested. We just got a report from Mr. House today. That report was fine. The only other comment that I have, if I can find.
Yeah, and real quick, in terms of Mr. House, I spoke to him briefly. His main concern was the fence, frankly, and or the way that the fence was drawn, and that it was going into the drive aisle. So obviously, for emergency vehicles, he had a concern with the fence coming out. I think that satisfies Mr. House's comment.
The only other comment I have, in the engineering report, he's asked us to show certain things, and we will be glad to show them. But he's asked for payments to upgrades to modifications for the GIS system and CAD disks and everything else. We're not doing anything, so I don't think there's anything that needs to be upgraded. I don't think we need to do a CAD disk, because again, the site is not changing, so I would ask that we not be required to do items 9 and 10 of Mr. Hauk's report. I don't think they are necessary.
Yeah, I probably agree with you there, Pete. There's nothing, there's no building, there's no structures changed, so there's no upgrade to the systems. Right, Jim? I'm right? Right? There's no, yeah.
You're putting, you got a piece of asphalt, you're laying down some stuff. that's
Yep.
all.
So other than that, we will do everything else.
All right, and just to cross our Ts and dot our Is, again, there's a comment that again, this is as of November 22nd, the fire service accounts.
Everything is paid. I'm sorry.
Very good.
Does any other member of the board have any questions?
Well, just one quick one, which is this the building that used to be Japan, the printer?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Very good. If there are no other comments from the board at this point, I would move that we open the meeting to the public for a hearing on this application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And we have our first.
Manny Manudakis,
Let me just swear.
yes, swear. I do.
No swearing, Manny, no swearing.
You swear affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay.
Manny Manudakis, I'm facility manager of the building just to the north of it. And just for the record, we would be the one that would be most adversely affected, and we have no objection. You can't even see the place from where we're at. We're at a much lower elevation than this facility is. And you can't even see where this, from the road, either from Schoolhouse or from Randolph, you can't even see where this lumber's going to be stored. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you for telling us that.
Anyone else from the public?
Seeing no one else coming forward, I would move that the public hearing on this application be closed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I would add that I drove out there. I had to be in that area this afternoon and drove into your parking lot that you get to from Randolph Road. And I pulled in, turned around, could not see anything behind the building, even from that parking lot. And I was not so brazen as to then drive through the driveway and do all that. But the position that is being talked of is well screened by the building.
Thank you for doing that windshield survey.
If there's no other discussion, I'll move the application be approved.
I'll second it.
That was funny.
We got one question.
Councilman Chase?
Wait, we got a question.
Oh.
No, that's not it.
The question is, Vince, is there a provision in the ordinance that says if you have outside storage, it must be fenced?
No.
You're not aware of any? It's a
No.
pretty, it's a pretty typical standard in the
I
ordinances.
I don't
remember seeing.
We don't permit it. Why would we?
You don't permit it.
Why would we fence it?
Yeah,
It's a question.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's
I wasn't aware of one in
nothing.
ours.
And actually, we do permit it. It's supposed to be completely accepted. It's a little bit bigger than the accessory. There isn't any provision there that requires it to be fenced in.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
You do permit it? That's new.
Look at all the firewood that's all
You know,
over the place.
it comes up so infrequently. We did actually find a provision, so. I think
Where's,
See, and I don't prepare for these hearings.
11230A.
In that case,
That's
I'll add to the, move the approval on also the removal, that the fence not be
Yeah,
required.
and I think the obvious reason's already been stated, the fact that you can't see it from surrounding property owners or roadways.
So formally speaking, we have to grant them a variance from this?
Well, if you don't have to grant the variance, but it looks like they need the variance.
Well,
if they don't want the fence.
that's what I'm asking. Yeah.
And
just
the-
to be safe.
And the reasons for that,
Were we to approve it?
yes, and the appropriate reasons have
You could
already
s-
been granted,
Yeah.
have already been provided to you.
Do you want to put anything on the record regarding this? I assume this would be like a C2.
This is well, obviously, we have the facility, the use is permitted basically because of the nature of the use, and the need to store these materials because of the large bulk that we have to acquire, and we have to store them outside. And, again, this is a viable business that has just moved into town. It is not visible from any other facility or other building, is evidenced by Mr. Manudakis's testimony, even Mr. Metler's. And as far as the fence is concerned, I think we've heard ample testimony that even the township staff does not want fencing around.
And just my opinion, I think from the testimony given, there is enough for the board to conclude that it does promote a purpose of municipal land use in promoting that permitted use, and the detriments do not outweigh.
Mr. Chairman, we just gave testimony, the other variance, you probably should technically just open it up to the public, just to make sure. I'm sure Manny doesn't have any issues. This is the only public, but you should just let it open up to see if.
I just want to protect
Do we have a
the
motion on
approval.
the floor right now?
Not yet,
Not yet.
really.
Oh, okay, I thought Seal made it. Never mind.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that again the meeting be open to the public for a hearing on this application, specifically on the question of fencing.
Second it.
I got you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any further comments now that the light of a variance for the fencing has come into light?
Mr. Chairman, seeing no one coming forward, I would move again that the public hearing on this application be closed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I'll add to the motion that relief from the requirement of the fence be added.
I'll second that.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Mr. LaCourte,
Do I second that or vote yes? No, yes.
no or yes? Which one?
Yes.
Ms. MacGyver?
Yes.
Mr. Mettler?
Yes.
Mr. Pettit?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Potasnik?
Yes, and I wanted to welcome Mr. Rosenwach to Franklin. Nice to have you. Many years of success here.
Mr. Onyaka?
Yes.
Chairman Orsini?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sounds like a great business.
So that's the end of our hearings. We have one item on the work session, new business that we talked about, I think, at the end of 2013, which was the Agricultural Heritage Museum. So Barbara Lawrence is here again.
Mr. Chairman, just before I forget, next week's meeting will be canceled, so we are not carrying any matters. That's the only reason why we kept it open. There will not be a meeting next week.
Very good. It's good to know.
Thank you.
Now, Vince, let's just frame this. We're doing this, again, we heard her once, we're doing it again as an amendment?
Well,
Master plan?
they're going to request that the report that was issued in this regard be attached as an addendum to the Historic Preservation Plan element of the master plan.
Okay.
I think,
So is this our hearing on that?
No.
I think that the entire report was emailed
Yeah.
several weeks ago.
I don't get paid white paper, email.
The report's probably about
Mail it to me.
150 pages or something.
I know, I said, so I wasn't gonna open the email, 150 pages, what do
Well,
you?
But we weren't going to,
Well, then either way, you lose.
1,200 pages of paper? So you
Okay,
figured it better be
so-
email.
You know, I think I did read it actually before the holidays somewhere.
So in other words, this is going to be the presentation that sort of frames that, but it's not the actual hearing on the master plan.
That is correct.
Okay.
And we've already heard some of this back in December. So I guess I'd just ask you to focus on like the broad view and anything that you didn't tell us back in December.
Okay. My name is Barbara Lawrence, 383 South Middlebush Road, a member of the Historic Preservation Advisory Commission.
I'm Andrew Burian at 36 Buffa. I am the current chair of the Historic Preservation Advisory Commission.
And the plan that we're talking about here is not a plan for strictly historic preservation. It's a plan that gives us a chance to deal with a considerable part of the history of Franklin Township in a way by creating a recreation educational environment. We encompass many needs of the town in terms of recreation, environmental consciousness, and awareness of how people and the land and agriculture interact, and the story of almost 3 centuries of agriculture in this township. The plan that we have before you comes from about 10 years' worth of work, starting with 2004, an historic structures report on the Stutthof-Gunther farmhouse itself and the farmstead. This plan takes a very broad use of what would be the best use of this land that the township owns under a preservation easement. We have funds to begin the stabilization. We had funds from the state to do this planning study, and the study gives us a great deal of data to support the plan. The basic plan itself is that diagram you have in front of you, showing how multiple uses will be made of this site, including replanting the apple orchard, a trail that links to the rest of the trails, advisory commission plan that's now part of the master plan, allows for continued use by farmers as well as active programming for education of one kind or another, children's playground, and a variety of other uses that that involve both some of the buildings and the space involved. It involves both the properties that are now considered the Stutthof-Gunther property and Most of the property that is in the Nevius Dunn site, except for the house, which is being dealt with separately. The benefits of this environment are that it really connects the people of the town and and other area visitors with both the natural and farm landscapes. This is an historic scenic byway, and with Franklin's agricultural heritage, as well as all of the other uses that can be made. And if you looked at the plan itself, it goes on for a number of pages about the kinds of programming and facilities that we can have there. The economics of it are based on the entire proposal, although it wouldn't all get created in one go. It's based on an understanding. The economist really looked very deeply at the target market, at 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes away. They looked in those markets at household size, number of households, number of children, and economic levels. So in preparing the programming work, we really know exactly who we're targeting in this market. The budgeting is extremely detailed down to the trail will be 72 inches. It will use this particular kind of gravel, which is permeable but allows handicapped access. And there will be this many signs, and this is the price per sign. The same, they don't just say a restroom is going to cost $20,000. It says this size, this much to put down the concrete slab, this many stalls, this many partitions, and the unit cost on each of those. So everything, although it may change over time, if somebody were doing an RFP for a piece of the work, you'd know exactly what to put in it, and you'd know what questions to ask if somebody's prices came in very differently.
Where does this money come from?
At the moment, we have only raised the money for the preservation of the farmhouse itself.
You were here, you mentioned that.
Right.
But for this whole project, how do you envision, this is obviously not going to happen in 1 year, it's going to take
many
an
years.
ongoing process. Do you think it's tax money, or is it?
I envision some of it coming from the town, and probably in terms of open space, some of it being money that we raise from grant money, some from the state and county, but other monies will come from other places. We've not formed a support nonprofit as yet because we want to know whether the town wants to do it.
What your thinking is about.
Our thinking is a public-private partnership.
Yeah, well, we've had a lot of these things happen before. I've been here a long time, as you know,
Yes.
I'm sure. And we've had good-intentioned people start these things, and they've ended up becoming a burden to people who aren't interested, the taxpayers in particular. I mean, I'm not talking about, all the motives are fine, that's not an issue. But it does come down to, at some point, to paying for it.
Yes, it does.
We've not been too successful over the years, other than going into the tax rolls to get money to support some of these things. I just wondered what your plans were, that's all. It's not an argument, it's just.
I understand. Yes.
I think the current goal is for us to get this as an amendment for the master plan.
Okay.
So it's something that we can work on and establish for the future. You know, no pro forma's been fully completed on how to pay for it
You've
in
done
the
a lot of
future.
work, I mean, I'm not minimizing your work, I'm just saying.
Right, I'm just saying that.
Down the road, I may not be around here by the time this gets to be done, but, you know, it's nice to know how you think it's gonna work.
During the period that I've been working on this, I also am a consultant for nonprofit organizations in fundraising and organization development. So I come at it with spending a good deal of time thinking about what would be required in a nonprofit to partner with the township and to negotiate appropriate balance of roles and to create a forward-thinking, not-for-profit organization.
I understand, okay, that's enough.
That would be sustainable.
I just was curious as to what you thought.
Yeah. You know, it's an historically significant site in terms of the founding families of Franklin Township. The Stoothoffs were among the original Dutch families who came here in the early part of the 18th century. The land has been farmed since the Lenni Lenape days and formally in terms of white person's history for almost 300 years, and architecturally significant in terms of the farmhouse itself having a good deal of its 18th century structure remaining. We've even thought in terms of thinking about why would we want to do this, what some of the outcomes would be, why we want to do this anyway, what difference would it make in the world if we had such a facility in town. And we think that it really matters a lot whether or not people learn to have direct contact with both the natural and human-built environments and understand the relationship that you can't have one without the other, essentially. And it would really gain an understanding, help the town understand, the town residents, why the farmers here matter to us and to the community around us. There have been a number of reports done, as I said, starting in 2004. So we've put a lot of effort into developing as detailed a plan we can so that we have not just a concept, but something to really work forward to for the residents of this town. Thank you.
Barbara?
Just one question. If the township decided tomorrow to fund it, and obviously that would be your dream come true, but it doesn't have to be in the master plan in order for that to occur. So what is your, why is this request being made? Are there any benefits in terms of potential for outside funding that, you know?
I think that yes, there are, in terms of an understanding that the township has committed that this is something it would like to have in the town. You know, putting it in the master plan, just like farmland preservation or other development areas. It doesn't say that you're actually going to be able to fund it or make it happen, but you're saying this is how we want to use the town and how we want to benefit our citizens. So I think it would help us very much in selling the concept and raising funds and gaining further public engagement.
Additionally, previously, there's been township monies and grant monies directed towards this project, and it's a defined use for some of the open space that the township has acquired through the years. These particular parcels, as you're probably all aware, is part of the real estate swap long before I was a resident. But it's a defined use, which is something that we don't have within the township for a large portion of the open space that we acquired. One of the criticisms that you often hear about the community is we have all this open space, but we have nothing to do with it. Here we have a definitive plan of what to do with it, and what the reports are saying, what all the studies have said, including the community input that went into these reports, is that this is something that's viable and desirable for the community. So by amending it into the master plan, it gives it a little bit more of that clout to help, you know, have the township move it along a little bit.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, ecotourism is in the master plan as an objective, I think. Either as part of the Trails Advisory portion of the master plan or the open space portion of the master plan. So, you know, this is sort of in keeping with that. And I think it would benefit, certainly when you go to outside sources for grant money, to have it be a sanctioned part of the master plan as part of the ecotourism.
Which is another area that there are funds that, there's fundraising directed towards ecotourism as well as heritage tourism. And I mentioned last time, and the numbers are in my briefcase over there, the benefit in New Jersey from heritage tourism is a very substantial amount of money, some billions of dollars. And that's a 2012 study. So there is a good deal of understanding of the role that the tourism dollar brings to New Jersey, and heritage and cultural visitors spend more money per visit than certain other kinds of visitors to the town.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you ultimately can develop the site the way your plan has it laid out, say, you know, with orchards and all of these other things, then it's probably, you know, a destination more so than anything else, because you can imagine that similar to, you know, people going to orchards, for example, during the fall. If you have an orchard on the site, or you have some of these things on the site, then that's a draw. That's a destination thing, and that gets people also looking at the rest of what you have to offer on the property. But absent this type of effort, then you're going to have those farmhouses deteriorate, and ultimately you're going to lose that portion of the historic element of Franklin Township. So I think it's great what you're doing, and I hope it all does come to fruition.
Comment, I don't know if you're aware of it, but 30 to 40 years ago, right across Sudan Road used to be the Sudan apple orchard. They had a commercial orchard and a cider mill. And I don't know if, you could tap into them for their expertise. But also I notice you have the orchard and you have a cedar grove there. There is a cedar apple rust. You really can't locate apple trees close to cedar trees.
Thank you.
You might ask or look into that also.
Yeah, this plan is more or less on a concept level. It was really a development to figure out what we can do at the site. So there's a lot of things that still have to be ironed out. It's a direction.
Or there may be newer varieties.
There may be
of
newer
apples
varieties.
that are resistant to that rust. That I don't know, but.
I know that until perhaps 10 years ago, a little more than that maybe, when Ray Gunther died, he had a small cider mill, a hand, and we would go up there to buy, I'm sure many of you did.
Yes, all you could climb the apple trees, yes.
And climb the apple trees. It really was important that we include the orchard, the wetlands, the woodlands, so that people would not just see a field, but how the entire environment worked to make a viable farm family survive and progress.
Excuse me, Cherry Valley Consulting, where are they located?
They're located outside of Cooperstown, New York.
Oh, okay.
We had, among the several, I don't remember, 5 or 6 bids that we probably had for the RFP, this was a firm we didn't know about, but they had exceptional experience in these kinds of outdoor, farm-based museums,
Okay,
if you
so
will.
You actually put out an RFP?
Yes, the town put out an RFP for every aspect of this.
Yeah, this report was
The
through
town
an
did, yes.
RFP through the township.
Okay, I didn't, it's all right, I just wanted to know who they were.
And one of the people, the architectural historian, was director of the Farm Museum in Cooperstown, for example. They've done work with a lot of facilities and came with a lot of information that we didn't have, and a lot of financial models of what worked, what didn't, how the communities or the states participated to help make these things happen.
Yeah, there's been, actually 3 grants that the townships received for this property. One was from Somerset County, and the other one was from New Jersey Historic Trust, and the one paid for basically this study, which was for the potential reuse, and the other grant paid for to study the structural stabilization of the building and the site.
I see that listed.
Yeah, and there's currently a grant in place that we're working on another front to have the building stabilized, the main farmhouse.
Still money available from those grants.
Yeah, there's
I think it's from
250-something
Somerset County
thousand.
to stabilize the buildings. Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I had a meeting today with a couple township employees about ecotourism, and some of the things that we brought up were the historic properties, coming to see them, some of the other things that could be done in town, and Barb, and I'm also on the Historic Commission, and open space. So my hands are in some of the pots here. So my feeling is that it would be a very good idea to incorporate this maybe into the master plan, because it would give a little more weight to getting more grant money if the township is behind something like this. If the township's not, and they say, nobody's behind it or anything like that, this just gives a little more weight to be able to get some grant money. So I would be in favor of whatever we can do to push this along. Thank you.
I agree, totally. Okay, any other comments from the board on this? No. So, I think we're all supportive. I don't know what the next steps are in the process or when we can schedule a public hearing, but I think we talked about it in late December. We should do it.
I think what the process would be is we could do it as a standalone amendment to the master plan, but I've started work on another master plan amendment related to subdivision clustering. There's been a recent change to the enabling legislation that allows a change in how the township can require clustering of residential developments to encourage more open space preservation. The township has a significant history in that. Specifically, it specifically allows properties that aren't contiguous to be clustered. So I'm exploring that. That would require master plan amendment in order to pass that, as well as I'm looking at some other things as well. So what I would suggest is it might be just procedurally easier to do a larger master plan amendment, have one, obviously that'll be subject of a hearing. We have to do the different notice requirements, sending notice to the county, sending notice to the adjoining municipalities, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just easier if this is included in that larger master plan amendment, which hopefully we'll get to sometime in the spring.
Are you under any timing issues at this point in terms of grant applications or anything that, I mean, because if you were, we could certainly, draft a letter that said that, we intend to do what Mark just said and give you that sort of, but if there's not and the spring is okay, then.
No, the spring is fine. There's no current, the grant season is eclipsed already, and
Yeah.
and it's kind of dry right now, but,
Mhm.
this is long-term
Sure.
thinking of the future, so.
All right, that sounds good. I have just one other quick thing to bring up in the work session that I've driven by it too many times. I'm sorry, you guys done? Okay. And Vince, maybe you can just, I need your input on this. So there's a sign, probably a number of people have passed it across from Restas on that lot, saying, it's zoned for commercial use or just, well, I don't think it is zoned for commercial use. I think that they're implying that they would, you'd need a variance. But what I wanted to do was, that's been up there for some time.
That's a misleading sign.
It is misleading, but what I'm more, they can mislead anybody they want, I suppose, it's free speech, but I'm more concerned with that it's actually not zoned that way, because obviously I don't think we'd want commercial development there.
This is Laird's Corner?
No, this is across from Restas.
Amwell and.
Right next to the Memorial Forest.
Yeah, if, the Toto property.
Yeah.
Certainly not zoned commercial.
I didn't think so.
There's actually
R40.
another similar.
R40 there.
Yeah, there's another similar sign on the corner of, I guess it's Hamilton Street still at that part, and Old Amwell Road, sort of across where there was a house that burnt down on a triangular piece of property now.
There's a sign there too.
And the sign there suggests commercial, and which it's not zoned for, so there are at least two signs.
Barbara needs to make a visit.
Yeah, I mean.
I can tell you,
Over the years, there's been a lot of parcels that they've done that.
Yeah, we can't stop them.
Owned commercially.
We can't stop them from doing that. I can tell you that we've had numerous inquiries on that site, and every time they come in, we tell them it's zoned R40.
We should actually.
And you could tell them that there's probably like, a chance of like snowball's chance in hell of that ever changing.
We make it crystal clear what the current zoning is and, what the township's feeling is regarding the properties in question. There's no question.
We all know that corner, and that's,
Yes, there is.
not a place where we're wanting
No.
any
I
additional.
think in the past.
Much for that matter, Old Amwell and Hamilton.
We typically contact
Yeah, Vince
the
will
realtors,
contact
Barb
them,
has, and says,
So you know.
and you know what, most of them are like, because it generates interest, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't think, but I did want to bring it up, and if it was a zoning issue that we, move to change it, and I didn't think it was, but I drive
No,
by it
it's
every day, and
R40 there, there's
it
nothing.
ticks me off every day. So.
We get people a couple times a month coming in and asking us about the site, and
All right.
the same answer.
All right, so, good. But buyer beware, I guess. So,
We're done.
that's it.
Move to adjourn.
Okay.
Have a happy new year, everybody.
Yeah.